Welcome to week 3 grant writing session. In this session, I'll be talking to you about how to develop goals and objectives. I'm very sorry it is coming late. I was excessively engaged in several other programs. Now, when we started grant writing sessions a few weeks ago, we talked about the different sections in a grant proposal. I listed them to include the introduction, the executive summary, the problem statement, some people call it needs analysis, methodology, some people call it program description, the timelines, sustainability, evaluation, budget, and budget analysis. So far, to those who have not watched the previous videos, it is important you go back to my YouTube channel and watch the previous videos to be abreast with the training at this section. In week 1, we talked about writing an introduction in a grant proposal. I pointed out that the introduction is the first thing to write in a proposal. This is the section that you introduce your organization to the reviewer. You only write about positive things that you have achieved in the organization. You write about the capacity of your organization and you briefly mention your board of directors. In week 2, I coached you on writing a problem statement. I pointed out that in a problem statement, first you define the problem. Next, you write about the causes of the problem. Next, you write about the long-term implications if the problem is not addressed. Followed by, you talk about the relationship between your organization's capacity and why you think you are in a better position to address the problem. Following that, you write about the demography of the target population. You mention data to substantiate your claims that a problem actually exists. So this was what we covered in details in the last 2 classes. So those who have not watched my last 2 videos, it is important you go back and watch those videos so you'll be able to catch up with this section that is dealing with how to write goals and objectives. Now, one thing you do not do in a problem statement section, do not attempt to discuss your programs and how you plan to solve the problem. Use every available opportunity in the problem section to establish that there is a problem and to establish that actually the problem that exists is the main core of what you're writing about. Now, if you can recall, I gave an example of a problem statement. I used a non-profit in Lagos as an example. Briefly, I will use the contents of the problem statement to explain how to generate goals and objectives in this section. Now, few weeks ago, in defining the problem, this is exactly what I said. I said the problem is there is high rate of youth misdemeanor, truancy, and violent crimes among youths in Ajegunle, Lagos. This was how I defined the problem. I proceeded to talk about the causes of the problem. I went ahead to say the causes of the problem are 1, increased unemployment, high rate of school dropout, increased use of drugs, and the lack of educational enlightenment programs for residents in the community. I stated what the problem was and I told you the causes of the problem. Now you're going to see how the causes of a problem reflects in how we write objectives. Okay, now, in what I discussed with you when I talked about the problem statement a few weeks ago, I also went to the 3rd paragraph where I spoke about if the problem is not addressed. I proceeded there to say if the problem is left unattended, that the long-term consequence will result to increased unemployment, increased street gangs due to high rate of of school dropouts, increased killings due to drug use, general insecurity, and pickpockets at bus stops. So these were the things I raised to tell you, if the problem was not addressed, the kind of problems that society will have. Now, as these things proceed, it now takes us to now defining the goal. How do we define the goal? Now, I have defined the problem. I have told you the cause of the problem, and I have told you the consequences if the problem is not solved. Now, to define the goal, listen very careful. Listen to the sentence I am about to make, because if you miss this particular line, it will be very difficult for you to get me going forward. Listen carefully. The goal of a project proposal is derived from the problem statement, and the objectives of the project proposal are derived from the causes of the problem. The program description is developed from the objectives, and the evaluation and program indicators are developed too from the objectives. And finally, the timeline has to align with the outcome objectives and the budget. This may sound a little confusing to some people, but I just decided to state it that way so you understand the whole concept of grant writing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to break down what I have just said in pieces, and you are going to understand exactly how to write goals. So at this point, let me attempt now to break it down. Now, when I say the goal of the project is derived from the problem statement, what do I mean? Let me use the example I gave you earlier of a problem statement to now develop a goal for you. I had started by saying the problem is there is high rate of youth misdemeanor, truancy, and violent crime among youths in Ajegunle, Lagos. That was the problem. Now, this is how I will write my goal. I will say the goal of this project is to reduce the rate of youth misdemeanor, truancy, and violent crimes among youths in Ajegunle, Lagos. So what the goal does is, the goal states the facts. So in writing a goal, never say you want to eliminate the problem. You can never eliminate the problem. Rather say you want to reduce the impact. Use solutions that can be measured. So you see that the goal is a reaction to the problem statement. It is straight and precise and to the point. After writing your project goal, then you need to develop what we call the objectives. There's a difference between a goal and an objective. Listen carefully. A goal is a desired result that you plan to achieve. So you want to achieve something, you set the goal. But an objective is a desired result you plan to achieve, but with measurable steps. So the difference between a goal and an objective is that a goal tells you what you plan to do. And objectives will break it down with numbers, how you plan to achieve that which you plan to do. Objectives are measurable. That means they come with numbers. Let me use the earlier proposal to give you an example. I will start with defining the problem, stating the goal, and then stating the objectives. The problem is, this was how I did, this was exactly what I said last week. I said, the problem is there is high rate of youth misdemeanor, truancy, and violent crimes among youths in our local area. Listen to the goal now. The goal of this project is to reduce the rate of youth misdemeanor, truancy, and violent crimes among youths in Ajegunle, Lagos. I have stated the goal. Listen now to the objective. The objective of this program is to provide mentorship initiatives to 150 youths in Ajegunle area of Lagos aimed at reducing youth misdemeanor, truancy, and violent crimes within a period of 18 months. So you can see that the goal states the facts, but the objectives gives you a definite number to be achieved. That's the difference between a goal and an objective. Now, you can develop more objectives drawn from the causes of the problem. Go back to the first video. I talked about the problem. I talked about the causes of the problem. The objectives are drawn from the causes of the problem. You notice that when we define the problem, we mention causes of the problem. So for each cause of a problem, you convert it to an objective. Now, each of these points I use as causes of the problem, I have to convert them to objectives. Now, listen carefully to what I'm about to say. I used the problem statement to convert it to the project goal. Now I will use the causes of the problem to convert them to the project objectives. Let me use the example again I had used the last week. I started by saying the problem is there is high rate of youth misdemeanor, truancy, and violent crimes among youths in our local area in Ajegule, Lagos. I proceeded to say the causes of the problem are increased unemployment, high rate of school dropout, increased use of drugs, and the lack of educational enlightenment programs for residents in the community. I've told you what the problem is. I've told you the causes of the problem. So I have just listed 4 causes of the problem. The 4 causes of the problem, I have to convert those 4 causes of the problem to 4 objectives. I can develop more. The first cause I used was increased unemployment. Now, I want to use increased unemployment to develop an objective. So listen, I will say to provide job readiness skills, including resume writing, computer skills, and general administrative support training to 250 youths drawn from Ajegule by December 2021. What have I done? I have told the reviewer exactly what I will do. You don't just write a proposal and tell a reviewer that I plan to train children in Cross River State or in Lagos. That does not make sense. You have to tell the reviewer exactly the number of people that will take the training and the specific time it will take you to complete the training. Next, I picked the next cause of the problem, which was high rate of school dropouts, and I will convert it now to an objective. Listen to what I will say. I will say to provide lessons for NECO and JAM preparation for 250 youths drawn from Ajegule by December 2021. Again, I have told the reviewer about numbers. The difference between a goal and objective is that one states the facts, the other states the fact and mentions the numbers. So a goal is a desired result that you plan to achieve. But an objective is a desired result you plan to achieve with measurable steps, numbers, and a definite timeline. I don't want to confuse you any further. I will stop here. For those of you who are on my Telegram group, feel free, write down your problem statement, goals and objective, and post them on the Telegram group. I will review them and I will give you additional training in the Telegram group. Next week, I will walk you through how to write program descriptions, timelines, and program indicators. And if there's time, I'll walk you through on how to write evaluations. For those of you who have missed my previous videos, feel free to go to my YouTube channel, Prince Will Odidi, and watch the past videos, and that will help you to catch up with what we are doing now. Thank you very much. It's been a long weekend for me, but thank you for waiting so much for these classes, and we'll proceed again next week. Thank you, and God bless you all.